In Sovereign, struggling single father Jerry, played by Nick Offerman, indoctrinates his son Joe, played by Jacob Tremblay, into the sovereign citizen movement, teaching him that laws are mere illusions and freedom is something you take. But as Jerry's ideology consumes them, they are set on a collision course with a police chief played by Dennis Quaid, who has spent his life upholding the rules that Jerry has spent his life tearing down. Sovereign is directed by Christian Swegal, and this film is his directorial debut. This film, Sovereign, is based on a true story of two police officers who were shot and killed in West Memphis, Arkansas in 2010 on a routine car stop, and Joe and Jerry were stopped by the two police officers, and Jerry was taken out of the car and questioned, and while he's been arrested, his son Joseph gets out of the car with a gun and shoots both of the police officers dead. And then Jerry gets back into the car, they drive off, and about 2 hours later they're tracked down to a car park in Walmart, and in a shootout they both are killed. I didn't really mean to spoil the whole movie, but at the start of the film they basically tell you that's what happens, and then the film goes back and shows us the lead up to this police shooting and the eventual shooting of Jerry and Joseph in the car park. Okay, I'll start off with the positives. The performances by Nick Offerman as Jerry and Jacob Tremblay as Joe were quite good. Their characters are not very well defined. I would have liked a little bit more characterization, but Nick Offerman, it's rare he gets a chance as a leading role, and he really takes it by the horns, and he's very commanding in this film as Jerry. And first 20 minutes of the film, I was kind of with this film. It's quite engaging, but you can see where this film is going very quickly, and the middle section of this film is very plotting. It's just, you're just kind of waiting for them to get to this eventual shootout, because Nick Offerman's character, he's very kind of like in the film, kind of like one-dimensional. His ideology just doesn't really, is very thin, and the film is kind of like making fun of him a little bit. There's several opportunities where he kind of like goes to like a bank and goes to like a courthouse to fight back against the government the bank taking his house, and he gets into like a comical situations where he tries to get around, slide around the law, and it's quite funny at times. But there's a lot of filler in this film. Like Dennis Quaid plays this like police officer who is very he's very strict about the rules, and he has a son played by Thomas Mann, and he's very hard on his son. His son is just a newly graduated police officer, but that subplot of him being hard on his son is not very well developed, and Dennis Quaid and Thomas Mann are not in the film very much. And at the end of the film, when Jerry and Joe end up killing the two officers, one of the officers that is killed is Thomas Mann, Dennis Quaid's son. So that's kind of a little bit of a twist towards the end of the film. I'm not sure if that is actually corrected by if it's actually a true story, but he ends up being one of the police officers shot at the end of the film. And then there's another a little subplot involving Jerry's sister, played by Martha Plimpton, and she joined because they're going on a road trip across America, because Nick Offerman's Jerry, he does seminars explaining to people how they can avoid the banks and government taking their homes, and sometimes he has maybe 20 or 30 people in this kind of hall, and he just got a speech, and it's a program, and he gets paid to do this. And sometimes if it's if it's a good turnout, he gets paid $1,000 or $500, and sometimes just a few people turn up. So basically he lost his job several years ago, and it is how he makes ends meet, and he lost his wife several years ago as well, so he's a single father. So his sister's, Martha Plimpton's, introduction into the film is quite brief, and there's kind of like a subplot of how she's scared of horses, and it's just this middle section of the film is just all filler, and you're just waiting for it to get to the eventual conclusion at the end of the film. And those scenes at the end of the film are very well staged. They're quite exciting and thrilling. But I just think the film would have been more interesting to see how Nick Offerman's Jerry character, how he became who he was. That would have been more interesting, because when we're introduced to him at the start of the film, he's already far gone. His ideology is just very concrete, and we can kind of see the man he is now. He's not going to change. But I just would have liked to have seen how his upbringing, how his past life, how his trauma in his life made him to who he is today. Like the passing of his wife, and apparently I read that he lost a daughter when she was very young as well, and he just had financial difficulties. So I just would have liked to have seen him a little bit earlier in life. I think that would have been more interesting film than what we got in Sovereign. I give Sovereign 2.5 stars out of 5. It does have some nice performances by Nick Offerman and Jacob Tremblay, and the shootout scenes towards the end of the film are quite well staged, and they're quite thrilling. But for me, Nick Offerman and Jacob Tremblay, their characters are quite thin, and it's quite predictable to see where this film is going to go early on, and the middle section of the film drags quite a lot, because you're just waiting for it to get to the shootout. So I think this is a little bit of a missed opportunity. I think it would have been better to focus on Jerry's character as he's growing up, and see how he is the man he is today. I think that would have been a little bit more interesting. But so what did you think of Sovereign? Please comment below what you thought of the film. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.